What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and I'm joined by Degenerate Jay. Jay, thank you so much for joining. To quickly open this up, and then I'll let you say your hellos. We're going to be doing quite a lot together over the next little while, and hopefully long term as well. I know a lot of people are very excited about us working together, and now we're branching out a little bit outside of Gotham Knights, a little bit outside of Batman. But for this one, we're going to talk about Silent Hill. We're going to basically talk about where is this game, what's going on. Jay is a huge fan of the franchise, which I think is a perfect fit. I kind of am more into the, I don't know, just the fun of the leaks and why in God's name this wasn't shown a few days ago. And Jay is more of like the actual hardcore fan. So Jay, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, hey, thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Silent Hill. It's like, it's one of those things where horror games, I think, have gone away from the more psychological aspect of it, with only a few, really staying in there. Silent Hill was one of those things that was very deep, very smart. People are still analyzing them to this day. And so for me, I've been waiting, like, okay, well, are we going to see this? Are we going to see this? You and I have talked about it behind the scenes. We were DMing during the event. We were like, okay, well, is Silent Hill going to be next? Well, nothing. We
Yep.
were just like, what the hell? What happened?
So, and I've covered this quite a bit on this channel, on my second channel, and so let's go through a little bit of the history of what we know about this game, and I want to we'll talk about what we kind of expect from this game, stuff like that. So, this game, and I've said it before, I said it, I think, a couple days ago in the kind of recap of the PlayStation event. This game is as real as the sun. This game is as real as Gotham Knights was. This game is as real as the Harry Potter game, Hogwarts Legacy, was. I truly, in my heart of hearts, believe that. I've been pumping this game up, and why wasn't it shown at the event? Good question, because we've been led to believe that this game, right, mainly made by Sony. So Sony's taking the reins basically from Konami. Konami will make a little bit of money from this, but Sony is pretty much handling all of it. They're actually paying quite a lot to do this. It's going to be a PlayStation exclusive. Even when they were doing the horror, like they were doing like a horror week at the PS5 event, they had Five Nights at Freddy's, they had Resident Evil 8. They could have had the Triad and just done Silent Hill. They didn't do it, but we've heard that this game was supposed to be announced in June. We heard that, if it wasn't announced in June, it would be announced in August. Now, obviously, August was supposed to be the PS5. And remember, everything's been moved because of, what's happened around the world. So it was going to be either in June or August. June obviously didn't happen. August comes and goes. September is the PS5 event. Obviously, we expect it to be there. Other rumors said that the game could have come out as a launch game in 2020. Now, at this point, that seems like the biggest lie of our lifetime. A few weeks ago, though, there were rumors that this game is actually a late 2021, early 2022 game. Now, that makes a little bit more sense. That sounds a lot more right. I don't know. The question I have is, well, I get it, because at this PS5 event, right, they did a lot of different stuff. I think they actually nailed it for the most part. I mean, what they showed I thought was actually outrageously good. They didn't show everything, and that does leave the door open for, okay, well, you have more of these, and you could show different kinds of games. But I don't know. I mean, Silent Hill, I just don't think it's a good look, much like I've said forever, that I don't think it was a good look that Warner Bros. Montreal just lets this Batman stuff go for years and years and years. I don't think that's a good look. I don't think the Harry Potter game, I love it. I love what we saw, but that game being leaked 2 years ago, and here we are literally like 23 months from when it was originally leaked. Now we get the game. I just don't know if that's a really good look that they let 2 years go and they didn't say anything. So, Jay, kind of being, a diehard fan, but hearing about all these leaks and stuff, like, what do you think? Does this make you maybe a little, like, more, because to me, I don't know, it kind of makes me a little less certain about this game. It's like, well, why hasn't Sony done it? Unless, again, they are kind of holding it off for, like, a 2021 thing. So what do you think about all that?
It's hard to say because it's the same thing as God of War. I mean, at least we saw something, but they had that teaser for God of War with the tease of Ragnarok is coming right at the end of the conference, and they just showed a symbol. I would have taken something like that over nothing. And yeah, you can argue, well, they didn't really show anything, but they at least confirmed that a project is happening there. I think that, like you said, there's a big problem with letting the public speculate back and forth. And I know a lot of people accuse us of being guilty of this, of like, well, then why do you speculate? Why don't you just shut up? It's like, well, because this stuff's fun to talk about, one, and
Yep.
because we care about it. I mean, it's the same thing I said to you. It's you really can't. I mean, people do, but it's really hard to make a video about something you don't care about. It comes off as really fake and disingenuous. And even this, like, if we didn't care at all, we wouldn't be talking about it. I just think it's disappointing, though, because I mean, you and I talked a little bit behind the scenes about Team Silent. Team Silent was making Silent Hill games. They were actually created back in Konami, and I'm TLDRing this completely, but essentially they were created as a team of losers. The idea was, hey, you're not going to be able to make this thing. We're going to give you an unrealistic expectation, make this horror game, because it was people that they deemed didn't work well with other people or didn't do their work good enough or were kind of lazy back when Konami actually really cared about making games. And Team Silent came together because they didn't want to lose their jobs. They produced the first Silent Hill on PS1 and it blew people away. And then Konami was like, oh, we underestimated you. You actually did a really good job. We were expecting to get rid of this team. Okay, well, this did really well. Why don't you make Silent Hill 2? Silent Hill 2 is still regarded as one of the best horror games of all time and possibly the best psychological horror game all time, or of all time with story. Then Silent Hill 3, and then Silent Hill 4 was a little lower quality, but it was still really good. And you had people entering and exiting that team for all those years, but you had key figureheads still in positions of power in that team who kind of ran the projects. And I guess what I'm getting at here too is that there came a point where Konami started licensing Silent Hill out to Western developers. Some of them were fine, some of them were bad. They never hit the Team Silent level. And then when PT happened with Hideo Kojima and they had their big public feud and everything and the Game Awards and all that, they just dropped it completely. It was gone. Then it was Pachinko. And then there's been these rumors that it's kind of what I'm getting to of it coming back over and over again. And we've talked about it. There were rumors of a hard reboot. I've seen rumors of a soft reboot as well, where it's still technically stuff is canon, but they don't need to reference it. I've seen it both ways. And a lot of the rumors are consistent though of having key members of the original Team Silent come back. Not everybody, but key creative figureheads come back and make this, and it would print money. I guess what bothers me is why don't you just confirm, hey, there's a thing. That's all I want. You don't have to show me anything. If you showed me a 10-second teaser of a town covered in fog and it zooms out and there's like a nurse there from Silent Hill, like twitching, or you had a man standing in the fog and it just said Silent Hill exclusive to PlayStation, that's what we want. They could have done the same thing for Batman Gotham Knights with WB and just shown a bat logo and said something like the bat is dead. And that's it. They could have done that a year ago. But for some reason, there's this insane DEFCON 4 level of secrecy in the games industry that I don't think is helping foster community trust in these games. I think you can see it too when we talk about them. People get mad. People get mad when you, I saw when you were talking about what we thought was going to be Arkham Legacy, or when I was, it's like, oh, this is fake. This isn't happening. They haven't confirmed this. All they're doing is making people annoyed when other people bring it up, or at the company when they finally announce it, I think.
This is an example. So I talk about when games are announced. This is a little bit different, right, because we're talking before announcement. But when games are announced, I always look at each game in their own kind of case study and say, okay, each game is a little bit different, where some companies, some like development studios, and some games themselves, because of the history, they either have to show probably more than they would want to win over trust, or not show. And you kind of, you get trust based off that. Nobody needs to see GTA 6 to get it, right? So Rockstar's in a good spot where you announce GTA 6, you could show nothing. Now, will they show some stuff? Yeah, but honestly, it's not all that much. It's not a lot compared to what some other games show. Gotham Knights, speaking of that, that's a good example of the reverse. I don't think Warner Bros. Montreal has earned trust. I really don't. I never did. And so this is a game that I think, even though I probably don't want to see all that much about it, because I don't want to be, I don't want every surprise out there, I think they kind of need to overshow, because they need to say, hey, people are actually very, and especially now because people are very concerned about what the game is, how they changed, a lot of the core mechanics, they may need to overshow it to show people like, okay, look, you can trust us. So this is a little bit different. This is beforehand, but what you just said, look, it's not like Silent Hill has had the greatest track record over the past like 10 or so years, right? It's been, I would say, close to garbage. So it doesn't look good when you have obviously PT and what happened with that. I mean, that sucks, and I'll take Kojima's side. Right? I love Hideo Kojima. That was tragic, and that was as close as we got back then to it. But they really are not in a good spot where, they can kind of just let this ride out and say, okay, well, all these they come out like monthly. There's literally rumors or leaks on this monthly that, this game is real, this game is PS5. And again, I think it is, and it will come out. And do most people kind of maybe forget about this earlier period that, you and me kind of talk about these kind of things? Do they forget about it? maybe a little bit, or probably actually the majority of people may do it a lot. But I don't know. I think it's important. A game like this, I think, like you said, I think transparency for a franchise that's been rocky, and also for this is sounds exciting. Like this is not something that I think you should hide. I think this garners interest, and again, that maybe is why I lean towards maybe Sony comes around Game Awards time. Maybe they do like a January. Because again, we don't know. Ratchet and Clank is missing in action, so we don't know. That was supposed to be a launch window. It still technically is, but it's not coming launch day. Horizon, now when's that coming out? So I mean, they do have other things to show us. Still, they could obviously throw this game Silent Hill in there and say, hey, here's another PlayStation exclusive that we have to show you.
Yeah, I think that what really sucks is, like you said, there is a need to build up good graces or faith from the consumer, because we talked about it as well, and I don't want to recap the exact same thing I said, but once they started farming out Silent Hill to Western developers, I would say the best that you had after that point was probably Silent Hill Downpour, which is a really good story but with pretty poor enemy designs, which was one of the big that was one of the big draws to the game, was every enemy had a psychological purpose and they stood for something, and there was a lot there. And maybe Silent Hill Shattered Memories, which was a alternate retelling of Silent Hill 1. Then you had crap like the Book of Memories and just a ton of stuff. And then it got farmed out to Pachinko, and Konami really backed off. And I think that so if Sony is handling everything, right, like we said, the problem is Sony is still going to slap Konami's name on it. Konami still owns the property. So you still need to make up for the things that Konami has done, even if that's not Sony's fault, to get back in the good graces of the public. Konami was pretty publicly outed for being really bad to Kojima, for treating a lot of people in game development pretty horribly. There were tons of horror stories from working at Konami. They really cut the development of Metal Gear Solid 5 short. There was a lot of talks of they pushed him to release Ground Zeroes. He didn't want that to be a standalone thing. That's gone back and forth in the public record. It's confirmed that the game wasn't fully finished, Metal Gear Solid 5. It was supposed to have more of a final act, and they just wanted to get it out there because they said Kojima spent so much money. And then you had the whole abandonment of PT and Silent Hills, and then just using the Fox engine for Pro Evolution Soccer, and now dropping that completely and now using a different engine. It's sort of this thing where people don't like Konami anymore. Just in general, people hate Konami actually as a games company, because they're sitting on Castlevania, Silent Hill, all these things that they don't want to use except for gambling machines in Asia. And people hate that. Konami, it's not reviled to me, but it's just a disappointment. I see them and I see a company that's come to just care about gambling in a way, because that's what I think Pachinko is. It's really like a glorified slot machine and Yu-Gi-Oh cards. And so Sony needs to make up for that. And I don't think that they make up for that by keeping Silent Hill silent forever.
Like you said, Konami is not, especially as of late. I mean, you think of them, well, like you said, I think hate's a good word. Honestly, like laughing stock is another word. Like, remember when they used to do E3s and they'd have like the conferences in like the break room or whatever, and they'd have like the screen? I mean, that's, in my opinion, that's what I think of when I think of Konami, is two guys sitting in the break room with the projector screen talking about their games. So yeah, I mean, Sony has a lot to, I think, work up to, and I think they will win over kind of good graces, just in the fact that you can maybe look at it that they're like saving the franchise, right? That maybe, oh my God, like there's actually hope now. Final thing, Jay. So you being I mean, you've given us a history of Silent Hill already, but what kind of things do you want? If it's a soft reboot, hard reboot, it doesn't really matter. What would you like to see to maybe even prove to you that, like, okay, it's going in the right direction?
So if it's a hard reboot, I mean, not to go too far down either of those. If it's a hard reboot, I need the town. I need the Native American cultural references, because sort of what Silent Hill was it was this ancient religious site in a way. It was a spiritual ground where the Native Americans would come in and their thoughts would sort of manifest as reality, positive or negative. But over time, that area was sort of polluted and toxicified. I don't know how you'd say it. It became demented over time, and that's sort of what happened with Silent Hill. So I need that. I need the town. I need the cult in some way, shape, or form, and these religious references, along with a character. It needs to be about a specific character. It should not be that I create my character. I think you should have some customization stuff. Like, you want to have some costumes, some outfits, maybe, different weapons, stuff like that. Absolutely. That's modern game design. That's a little different than it was way back. But I think this needs to be about a specific character telling a specific story of specific past sins. That's what Silent Hill has always been, and sort of overcoming that. I think that they need to focus on both because we've seen different aspects of both throughout the games. The focusing on past sins part was done best in Silent Hill 2, while the cult parts were done best in 1 and 3. And I think that you need to do that again. Now, if it's a soft reboot, I think it would be really nice to see some references back to the core Team Silent games, but I'm not expecting that. I've seen those rumors as well that it would be a soft reboot. I think you and I talked about it. The problem is that it would just be easier to restart from scratch. The only soft reboot I could see happening would be saying, hey, none of the Western things matter. In this timeline, it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, and then our thing. I could maybe see that. But it's been so long since they've made these core titles. What was the Silent Hill 4 come out in 2004 or 5, I believe? It's been so long that I don't know if you really want to do that or not. It's very different than a project like John Carpenter's Halloween, where the original Halloween was so iconic and everyone's seen it. This is generations ago that these games would have been played, and they really haven't been made available since then, except in a crap HD remaster for the PS3, which people should probably still pick up because that thing's going up in value. Um, these games are ridiculous, by the way. You can't even, not to go on a tangent, you can't even really collect them anymore. Silent Hill 1 is like $100 physically. I have 2 and 3. Both of those are about $100. I can't even find 4 because of the same thing. So if you're appealing to that history, it's hard for people to access it. I think that's the big problem that you're running into because of how much they've gone away from games, is that by not bringing these things up ever, you're now almost in a corner where you have to reboot. And I think if you do reboot, you really just need those core solid cornerstones. Otherwise, it's not going to be Silent Hill.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, guys, let us know in the comments below. What do you think? What do you think's going on with this game? When do you think Sony is going to announce it? What do you think about a pitch for a new Silent Hill game? Let us know if you want more Silent Hill videos. I mean, it's very clear Jay, outdoes me in terms of knowledge for Silent Hill, but I love talking about leaks and rumors, so I think we balance out there because of that kind of blend. So let us know what you guys think in the comments below. Jay, thank you so much. Again, awesome working with you. We had a ton of fun doing the Gotham Knights stuff. We're going to be working together plenty in the future. I know a lot of people, again, liked us working together, so thanks again for jumping on.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. And you always send some really nice people over to my channel, which are actually very kind and don't attack me immediately. So I appreciate your audience. They're a bunch of very nice people.
Thank you. So, guys, let us know. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed. Subscribe to Jay. All of that stuff will be in the description. I'll have it as a pinned comment as well. All of his stuff, all of my stuff, and we will see you all on the next video.